Hello, and welcome to 12-Minute Meditation, a weekly podcast from Mindful and mindful.org that offers mindfulness meditations backed by neuroscience. Research shows that just 12 minutes of meditation a day can yield benefits like increased attention, focus, creativity, calm, resilience, and compassion. So on this podcast, we invite you to explore guided meditations from today's leading mindfulness experts. I'm SIYLI Myram, editor at Mindful and mindful.org. If you've grown weary of traditional resolutions, but you still carry a glimmer of hope that positive change is possible for us imperfect humans, then you'll love intention setting. In this practice from his mini course, mindful leadership trainer Rich Fernandez shows us how to vividly envision the imagine if possibilities. When we tap into meaning, passion, and a felt sense of welcoming what we long for, it's easier to get clear on the purpose behind our pursuits. Rich Fernandez is the former CEO of Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. He was previously the Director of Executive Education and People Development at Google, where he was also one of the first SIYLI teachers. Rich previously co-founded Wisdom Labs and has also served in senior roles at eBay, JP Morgan Chase, and Bank of America. Ready to practice? Here's Rich Fernandez.
Hello, I'm Rich Fernandez, and I'm the CEO of the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. It's a nonprofit institute that makes mindfulness and emotional intelligence tools practical and accessible for communities and organizations around the world. I'm so happy to join you today for the second module here of what I'll be offering, which is Meditations for Living with Meaning, Purpose, and Resilience. Module 2, which I like to call Setting Intention. And if you join me for Module 1, or if you haven't had the opportunity to do that, just to recap, we had really thought in Module 1 about uncovering meaning, about touching into our core values, the things, in other words, that we consider most important and meaningful for ourselves. So this week, I wanted to build on that and really think about how to set an intention based on our values, based on the things that are important to us. So in order to do that, I always like to begin with a moment to arrive. So as you're listening to this now, you may be just starting your day, or you may be arriving from a busy day. Whatever your circumstance is, I always find it really nourishing to just take a moment to allow our minds and hearts and bodies to kind of catch up with each other all in this same moment, taking a moment to arrive. So if you would please join me, we'll just do a very brief meditation, which I'll call a moment to arrive. If you're comfortable, I would invite you to close your eyes or simply direct your gaze downward, softening the visual field. Sitting in a way that's comfortable if you're seated. Just finding a comfortable position for your body. Allowing your attention to settle. Collecting your attention. And becoming aware of your body. The places where your feet make contact with the ground or the chair. The felt sense of your body as you sit, or wherever you find yourself. Perhaps sitting in a way that's alert but relaxed at the same time. And sitting in a way that embodies this quality of alertness, of clarity that we will be practicing today. Bringing clarity, a sense of clarity. And gently but firmly gathering your attention and also directing it towards this sensation of breathing. This sense of the air as it moves in and out of your body. Bringing your full, undivided attention in a firm but gentle way to this experience of breathing. And just as you are, I'd like to continue the meditation on intention by inviting you to consider something you hope for in your life. Perhaps more specifically, what you would hope your life would look like at some future date and time. It can be near term, the next 6 months, a year. It could be longer term, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Whatever's useful for you in this moment. What would you like to imagine in terms of a horizon? So in this meditation, I really want you to consider what you would envision for your life with vividness and clarity. And I'd invite you to imagine you living your best life. Further, I'd like you to imagine you living your best life in a way as if it already happened. So what are you hoping for? And then if you can imagine it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and you're living your best life, what would that look like? Envision what your future life would look like with vividness and clarity. So let's just take a pause and really envision what this future life that you most hope for would look like. Who are you? What would you be doing? Who would be there? What conditions exist and circumstances? Calling in your mind, calling in your heart, and sensing in your body what it feels like to be living this future life that you would most hope for. And finally, perhaps the easiest way to envision this is to simply imagine what it would feel like. What would it feel like to be living this future life? How would you be feeling? And as we end this meditation, I would just invite you to take a few deeper breaths at your own pace. And then rejoin, open your eyes if you'd like, if you have your eyes closed. So this is really an exercise in imagine if. And again, this is part of an intention setting exercise. And the reason that I am inviting you to envision a future life that you would most hope for is because in many ways, if we could imagine that life and act and think as if we've already experienced that, it brings you one step closer to that actual life. So if that's not clear, I actually want to share a prompt with you, another question that you can either use as a meditation, a kind of reflection, or you can actually write about and journal about. So the very simple prompt about envisioning a future life would be, I'm living my best life and I am ... I'm living my best life and I am ... So I'm going to ask you in a moment to further reflect on that, whether through written form or through meditation. But as you consider living your best life, consider that a year from now, or 3 years, or 5, 10, or 20, whatever makes most sense for you. Right? So if you have a very long-term goal, maybe you want to consider 10 or 20 years. If there's something that you're hoping for, a change, a difference in your life in the closer term, say a year or 3 years, you can begin with that. So an example of this reflection would be, it is 3 years from now, and I'm living my best life, and I am ... And I would now ask you to then fill in the ... It is 3 years from now, I'm living my best life, and I am writing and teaching. That would be mine. And I am a published author of 3 books. So my horizon's about 10 years, actually, on that one. In 10 years, I am a published author of 3 books and teaching based on what I've written, and traveling around the country, and traveling around the world, in wonderful gatherings and conferences, sharing my ideas. That would be mine, for example. So I would invite you to try this out for yourself, imagining the future life, because this is the intention setting exercise. I am ... That is really the heart of this module, intention setting in future forward mode. I'm living my best life and I am. So I'm going to invite those who aren't writing to just meditate on that prompt. And if you're comfortable writing, please go ahead and take a minute or so and write this out. I'm living my best life and I am. Fill in the blank. Now please continue the reflection, and I would just invite you further to consider how you feel. What does it feel like in this future place? Write that down, or inhabit that feeling. What are you doing? How do you feel? What's happening in this best version of your life? Just remembering this vision, this felt sense as we end the reflection. If you're doing this as a meditation, taking the last couple of deeper breaths at your pace, and then rejoining us. So thank you for that thought exercise, that meditation. Again, just to remind everyone, this is intention setting. It is imagining the way forward and setting the intention around it. And I specifically wanted to invite you to reflect on your own life, perhaps your life and work, and then think about how all of this actually would look in the best life you could hope for. And then write it down, or really get clear on the qualities of that best life you would live, and then live your way forward into that life. That would be the intention setting invitation. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of 12-Minute Meditation from Mindful and Mindful.org. I hope you enjoyed practicing with us today. Sign up for our free newsletter at mindful.org/signup. And if you'd like to explore additional related content and meditations, including Rich's mini course, check the show notes for links.